Hello and welcome. It's been a while since I've just made a random video on the channel that wasn't part of anything else, any sort of playthrough or just, sort of a longer video series. And I've recently been in the mood to just do some Would You Rather. So today I thought, might as well record something. I don't know yet how long I'm going to do it, maybe like 30 minutes or something. We'll see how interesting the questions are. If the questions are super boring, I might cut it off a bit earlier. If the questions are super interesting, we might go for a little bit longer. We'll see. Um, Standard thing here, just I went to like the second result on Google or something. The first one that actually had something that looked like a decent interface, something that I could just press full screen, start recording. So I think in general, I'll just through the more dull and uninteresting questions, I'll try to get through quickly, and maybe I'll say a bit more about the more interesting questions. The first one is a: would you rather go to work school every day hungry, or go to work school every day exhausted? Now, the answer to that is actually very simple, because hunger is something you can fix very easily, and exhaustion isn't. So I would much rather go to work hungry and then eat. On a serious, serious note, of course it's not serious, but um, without trying to game the system here, because usually these questions aren't really bulletproof because there's only so much you can do with writing like 4 words. Um, so if the option was you have to be exhausted for the whole day and you have to be hungry for the whole day, I would still probably rather be hungry, to be honest. Now that might be slightly biased by the fact that I'm not really hungry that often, in the sense that usually I'll just, eat enough that I never really feel much hunger. I've tried recently to go a bit longer into the day without eating too much. Like I've had a couple days in the last week or two where like the first thing I ate was at like, I don't know, 3 p.m. or something on any given day. And you'd sort of slightly start to feel hunger then. And it's not like pleasant, but exhaustion is much worse to me. So I'd much rather go to work hungry, even under the situation, like under the condition that I'd have to stay hungry for the whole day. And 57% of people agree with me apparently on that. I can understand both for sure. That's the same question. Would you please go to the next one? Okay, there we go. Good start. Would you rather live to be 400 and look 400 your entire life, or live to be 80 and look 25 your entire life? That's an interesting question. That's not like the usual you'll be immortal and you'll never age, or you'll, die at a normal age. That's an interesting one. Because it basically, is it quadruple? No, quadruple is 4. It quintuples your lifetime. But at the same time you look like 400 your entire life. Now, the thing is, do I just look like 400 my entire life, or does any of the other like issues come with it as well? Like, does my body feel like I'm 400, or does it just like, does my body age normally, in the sense that like after like 80 or so I might like be in pain for the rest of my life? If I would just assume that if I choose live to be 400 and look 400 your entire life, I would just start like have pain normally, like, but just spread out. So for example, I might start, getting the usual illnesses or ailments that a normal 50-year-old gets at like 220 or something like that. Now, I think my problem isn't what the question is wanting to illustrate. I don't particularly care if I look 25 or look 400. That's not the matter. That I couldn't care less. The issue is, do I want to be 80 or do I want to be 400? That's the much more interesting question. I think that's heavily based on how much pain I would have throughout the 400 years of life. And I think I think I'd probably just live to be 80 and look 25 my entire life. Nothing to do with the looks, as I said, but just like, why would I want to be 400? Um, I don't really know. Like, it's cool to be like, hey, I've lived throughout such a long time, and I can actually like physically myself see a lot of progress in what happens to the world. But at the same time, it might actually be depressing because, as as humans, we have that little bit of a bonus of, being like, we'll die in like, for me, probably like somewhere between 40 and 60 years, I guess. And, anything that happens after that, what's it matter to me? Uh, you know, always depending on, do you want to get children, etc. And, but if we want to think like that, we can. If I'm living to be 400, that's a long time, and a lot of things can happen. Like, are humans even going to exist in 400 more years? Probably, very likely, but it's not guaranteed. So yeah, anyway, I'm choosing that for sure. Yeah, okay. What's up next? Would you rather save your spouse or save your child? Well, I have neither, to be perfectly honest. And I think it would 100% depend on the situation and everything surrounding it. Would you rather save your spouse or save your child? I hope I'm never in a situation where I'd have to do either. Uh, that's complicated. That's kind of like those questions that are like, well, if I would put myself into that scenario where it'd be like mom or dad or something like that, something that actually is real to me because I have neither a spouse nor a child. And I would like to not answer such questions. And I think that's honestly, I think questions like that are questions, you can think about them as much as you want. Those are questions that you cannot answer like 100% unless you are in that situation, because you yourself don't know what you do. Like, obviously, if I would, like, if assume I had a spouse but had no child, I could easily say, well, I'd save my spouse because there is no child. But assuming you have both, I don't think it's a question you can legitimately answer. Therefore, I would like to skip it, which I don't think is possible. No, I can contact customer support. I would like an option to skip questions, please. Let me think about it. There's so many other factors that it would depend on. Like, if any of those two things were real, I could at least have something to draw from, to be like, okay, that's the situation. But I don't. So it could be like, I could have a 95-year-old spouse who'd probably die tomorrow anyway, or I could have a child who's 4, or I could have a child who's 72, and just, well, I couldn't have a child that's 72. I could have a child that's like 4, 5, 6, probably. Um, it would probably depend on the screw it. I clicked on something. I don't even know. Let's just ignore that question. Would you rather vomit every time you see the color brown, or have to sneeze 10 times whenever you're touched? I'd much rather sneeze 10 times whenever I'm touched. Might be a bit sad. I don't get touched all that often. I'm fine. Vomit every time you see the color brown seems awful. I see the color brown right now. There's brown. There's brown. My desk is brown. No, just no. Also, like, vomiting is awful. Like, thankfully I haven't vomited in like 10 years probably. I don't drink alcohol. I usually don't get food sick or anything, food poisoning or something like that. So I don't vomit generally, but I don't want to either. Would you rather be able to have any pet you want, or be able to have any electronic device you want? Now, that question is quite easily answerable. I would rather be able to have any electronic device I want, for 2 reasons specifically. Reason A is that the question, be able to have any pet you want, I think the idea behind that question is you could have like a crocodile or a dolphin or a zebra. And I don't want to have a pet that's not meant to be a pet. Like, I started watching sort of like an sort of animal rights activist. Not like I'm generally not really into activism and stuff like that, but he just seemed likable, and so I watched some of his YouTube videos, and he made a good point about like there's like a distinction between pets where it's like you have pets that were sort of, I don't want to call it designed because at one point all of those animals were meant to just be wild animals, but by the time or at the point where now they're pets, like cats, dogs, mainly. There might be some others, but those are the main ones. And then there's animals that are just not meant to be pets. And I would not want to have such an animal as a pet, regardless of like even the implication of, hey, there's a lion. It would just kill me. Even if we ignore all of that, I don't think I would want to have any such pet. And any electronic device I want. Yeah, so, well, there'd be the question, does it have to be an electronic device that exists? Or can it just be like something, hey, I want a computer with, I don't know, 400 terabytes of RAM? Probably, or is it like, I want, I don't know, a spaceship? I don't know. I'm sure I could think of something, but it's definitely much rather this. All right, so far I am convincingly in the majority. Would you rather be abducted by an alien or be thrown in jail for a crime you did not commit? Is the alien friendly? Which jail am I thrown into? For how long? I hate the idea to be thrown in jail for a crime you did not commit. Therefore, I'm more likely to go be abducted by an alien. But the thing with being thrown in jail for a crime you did not commit is also quite heavily depends on the crime you didn't commit that you got jailed for. Because I mean, I've never been in prison, but from the stories you read, like your treatment in jail, mostly also by the other inmates, heavily depends on why you're in jail in the first place. So if it was like, I don't know, something really bad, then I do not want to be in jail for it, regardless of if I committed it or not, but especially if I didn't commit it. So I'd rather be abducted by an alien, and I think I'd live with the consequences of that decision. Yeah, still in the majority. Would you rather live with a complete slob or live with a complete idiot? I think if I know my English correctly, a slob is just someone who's very like untidy. So he just leaves stuff lying around, all the garbage is lying around. He doesn't clean up after himself. He's just lazy, doesn't do any housework. And a complete idiot. Well, are we under the assumption that the complete idiot would be capable of housework and cleaning up after himself? Again, under the assumption that both of these are uncurable in a sense, so you can't just talk with the slob and convince them to be better, to better themselves, and you just cannot get the idiot to be any more intelligent. Honestly, I'd rather live with a complete slob, if I have to be honest. I'm not too I'm not a hygiene freak or anything like that. If no one's hoovering for a week, it's whatever to me. Like, the house is a bit dirty, I don't give a shit. And honestly, to my personal cleanliness standards, I think I can handle doing all the housework myself. You'll just have to do other stuff, I guess. If he brings in the money, I'm fine with it. I can live with being a housewife, I don't care. I don't want to live with a complete idiot, to be honest. I think it would make me mad. For the first time, I think I was not in the majority there. Would you rather know the exact time when each of your family members will die, or save a group of children from death and give them their intended lifetime? Now, this is a bit of a weird question because this has no real upsides. Like, it would also give you, it would get you into a moral dilemma because you would then be like, well, if I know, for example, a family member of mine is going to die in a year, what would I do? Would I spend more time with them? Or would I spend less time with them focusing on other relationships in the family? Just because they're going to die anyway. That sounds harsh and horrible. And of course, I would like to think I'd spend more time with them, but purely on a rational basis, it's a bit of a weird question to think about. And I don't even think the upside is great. Like, know the exact time when I don't think I would want to know that, honestly. So, yeah, I'll save a group. I mean, honestly, I don't care too much, but I'd save the group of children from death because that at least has an upside. Would you rather be immune from all laws within your country or be president of your country? I'm president of my country. I can just make the laws myself. Well, in a country like Austria, that's just not true. But be immune from all laws within your country. I Interesting point. Does beam probably wouldn't matter. I was thinking like, does it also mean like other people who commit crimes against me are immune from all laws, like protection laws for myself? Um, like technically, like the fact that I would receive a pension. I mean, it's far away. Don't know if I'll ever receive a pension, but that's technically a law within my country. If I'm immune from that, I'm not getting any money. I'd rather be the president. Makes me slightly more prone to assassination, I guess. But the last time someone's gotten assassinated, as deep, that didn't end so well. Still, I'd rather be the president, I guess. Yeah, I'm not breaking any laws. I don't give a shit. Um, would you rather have to tell your crush your most embarrassing story or have to stand in a subway naked? Oh, hell no. I'll tell my crush my most embarrassing story, easily. I don't care. Would you rather be able to read anyone's mind or know the exact time you'll die? That's actually because I think the question maker, I clicked on that very quickly, but let me go into that a bit. I think the question maker meant both of those as upsides, but to me, both of those are just downsides. And I've actually just completely forgotten what I clicked. I know which of the two I clicked, I just didn't remember what it said. One was know when you'll die, which I definitely don't want to know, but I don't remember the other one. We'll just ignore it. We'll continue. Should have been self-explanatory. I clicked on it very quickly. Run 5 miles every day or do 1,000 jumping jacks every day. Well, both are horrible for your knees. I feel like 1,000 jumping jacks would be worse, but running 5 miles every day sounds awful. I hate running. I just find it obnoxiously boring. I mean, 1,000 jumping jacks, if I'm doing... Well, the thing is, can I run 5 miles every day, but on like a treadmill? Because then, like, at least I can do something else at the same time. I could watch like a video or something, or I could at least do something. I can do the same with 1,000 jumping jacks as well, but the question is, which would take longer, actually? I can probably, if I'm running 5 miles every day, I can probably get to the point where I can run... How much is 5 miles in kilometers? That should be like 8 kilometers, I think. So if I get to the point where I run that much, I can probably do it in 30 minutes. It's a good time. Very good time. But, you know, I could get there. 1,000 jumping jacks. 30 minutes are 1,800. So I'd have to do... I think it honestly... That's actually a good question, I think, because it evens out at roughly the same amount of time spent. And I think 5 miles every day is less bad for your joints. So I'm choosing that. In the majority. Would you rather lose one eye or lose one arm? Now, lose one eye doesn't really have too much, like if you don't think about it too much, losing one eye doesn't have too much of a negative consequence, but it actually is pretty bad because you lose a lot of depth perception. And that can be pretty important for several things. But I think losing an arm would be worse. Not necessarily for the reasons you might think, but I don't know, I just really like having both arms just to balance myself. It sounds stupid, possibly, but honestly, I'd rather lose an eye. I think Would it fuck with being able to drive? Surely, like, with one eye, you're still allowed to drive. But it might be kind of dangerous at the start until you're used to it. But still, like, I'd lose one eye, for sure. You also got to keep in mind that either of those brings you closer, though, to losing both of them. And would the question be, would you rather lose both eyes or both arms? I'd 100% rather lose both arms. But if it's just one of the two, I'd rather lose the eye. It's actually kind of interesting how it's like it matters how much you lose. That defines on what would you rather lose. Would you rather live through the sinking of the Titanic or live through a kidnapping? Now, the sinking of the Titanic has a very specific length of time. Live through a kidnapping could be anything from like, I don't know, you get kidnapped, you get freed an hour later, or you get freed like 20 years later. And honestly, I think living through the sinking of the Titanic actually isn't all that bad. I think it's the dying part that's really the problem in that one. Whereas living through a kidnapping sounds horrible. Depend obviously, and like if you get picked up by someone and they're like, "Hey, get in my car," and then you drive somewhere in a remote place, and then they, I don't know, tie you to a chair, they leave, and an hour later the police freeze you. It's like whatever. But if it's like a really tense situation, I think living through the sinking of the also depends on how soon do you know you live through it. Like if you're the last person to survive that, if you're like already in the water, like freezing, and just a boat comes by and picks you up at the last second before you drown, that could also be horrible. But I feel like I'd rather live through the sinking of the Titanic, to be honest. It's right down the middle, 50-50. I can understand that. Would you rather be very sensitive to everything people say, already the case, or never be able to hear the opinions of others? Hmm. So essentially, this is would I rather be myself, or so essentially, it's just kind of like I did a video once that was like, would you press the button? Which is essentially just, it all depends on this now. Would I, if I had the choice, would I never be able to hear the opinion of others? I don't think that's a good thing, honestly. No, I'd be very sensitive to everything people say. Another 50-50. The game broke. I'd rather find a cure for cancer or find a solution to world peace. World peace, easily. This to me is nowhere near as close as it is. And this is under the assumption that find the solution to world peace is a permanent thing. Of course, finding the solution to cancer is also a permanent thing, or the cure to cancer. But I'm under the assumption cancer will be cured. It might not be tomorrow, it might not be in the next 10 years, but it will be cured. I don't think there is actually a solution for world peace. So if it just magically appears out of nowhere, I'd take that, honestly, much rather than finding a cure for cancer. I don't know if I'd say anything different if I had cancer, possibly, but under the current situation, world peace. Find the true love of your life or be friends with all of your favorite celebrities. True love of my life, easily. Like, I have friends, I've got enough friends. Why do I want to be friends with all my favorite celebrities? Sure, it'd be kind of cool for, like, I don't know, the first month or so, but after that point, they're just your friends. Like, I don't think you'd think of them as your favorite celebrities anymore. And for some of them, maybe they're bad people, maybe they're not nice, maybe they're nicer on TV than they actually are. So I don't know if I'd want to find out about that. So this definitely. Okay, pretty close actually. Would you rather be able to have 9 lives or be able to have $9 million with one life? 9 lives, easily. $9 million. Honestly, it's not that much. Like, of course, it's a life-changing amount. It's a lot. But I think I'm at a point where it's like not that life-changing. That like I'm living a comfortable life. So it's not to the point where it's like I'd go from absolute poverty, like I'd have to sleep on the streets, to I can have a mansion. But it would be like I'm living an all right life. I could maybe just not have to worry about working anymore and stuff like that. And money has that kind of problem where you'd never know when inflation happens, when just something happens and it's all worthless. So I'd definitely take 9 lives. I probably would be very well, I treat it like I would treat items in games, where it's like, I don't want to spend any of them. I want to keep them. I'm saving them up for when I need them. And then it's kind of a matter of, well, how do you define like you have another life? Would it just be like at the point where you die, would it just revive you instantly in the same condition you were in before? Because then it's like, well, if you live to the age of like 90 and you just die of cancer or something like that, it wouldn't save you. It would just get rid of your 9 lives very quickly. But at the same time, like, it would mitigate a situation where, like, I don't know, you're 30, you're in a car accident, you would die. And so, yeah, 100%, 9 lives. Give them to me. Would you rather lick a pile of dog poop or lick the floor of a school bathroom? School bathroom, easily. Don't even know why that's a question. Like, I wouldn't want to do it, but as a comparison, much rather. Would you rather be publicly embarrassed but have everyone forget after a year, or have your entire family publicly embarrassed for 2 years? Something like that actually happened to me. And it was fine. Like, it wasn't great, but have you I don't know. I'll take the hit on that one. Maybe I'll tell that story once. Be able to find anything by thinking about it. Be able to date any person you can think of. How do you define be able to find anything by thinking about it? If I go outside and I'm thinking of gold, is gold just going to appear out of somewhere? I think the question isn't very specific about that. Be able to date any person you can think of is also like, are they actually going to have any feelings for me? Or is it just going to be like, do you want to date me? Yes. Okay, do you want? No, I'm breaking up. I don't. I take finding anything by thinking about it. I guess. I don't really have a problem with finding stuff, but yeah, I think that's more likely to be my choice. Live stream your entire life for everyone to see, or anyone around you can hear your thoughts for the rest of your life. I feel like both of those are pretty awful, but once you get past the point where you're like, oh god, everyone's seeing what I'm doing, I think like after 2 or 3 years, you just stop giving a shit. Whereas this could potentially hamper and harm you for the rest of your life. So easily that, very easily. Would you rather never be able to remember names or never be able to visualize images? Quite easily never be able to visualize images, because that's also already kind of a thing for me. Like, it's not a thing for me to the point where I cannot like visualize anything at all. But like, I don't know if I've ever done anything actually like that, but I'm horrible at visualizing like three-dimensional shapes and stuff like that. And also to the point where like I can't draw at all, because I cannot like think about what something looks like. It just doesn't work. So easily that. Never able to remember names would suck. It's not bad. Like, you can get by perfectly fine without being able to remember names. But yeah, I again I take the one I already have, because I'm always like assuming that the one that I already have wouldn't change. So I'd rather take no negative effect than some negative effect. Would you rather be born into a rich family or work for all your wealth but have more? That depends, because it says work for all your wealth. That is assuming that the work will actually give me wealth, because I feel like you'd much rather work for something where it'll give you, like, it'll benefit you more in the long run. Unlike, for example, like if you have to work really hard and you get like barely any money, that would suck. But I feel like I'd rather. This is another one where they just like added on the but have more. Like, you can get more money. Come on, pick me. Where it's like, that's not like that important to me. Be born into a rich family. Like, if we have the same understanding of a rich family, I don't think the little bit more money doesn't matter much. it's essentially to me like, would you rather work for your wealth or be born into a rich family? Because the thing with this is work for all your wealth. Kind of to me sounds like you always have that security of you worked for all your wealth. You can make more money. If you're born into a rich family, you can not necessarily always make more money. And similarly to the situation before where you could have $9 million, you can end up in a situation where you're not the son of a rich family anymore. Your family went bankrupt and now you're screwed. So I'd take that. Slight majority there. Okay. Would you rather be the richest person in the world and live your intended lifetime, or be poor and live forever? This has two downsides. This has two upsides. Thank you very much. I'll take the money. Be able to be invisible or be able to fly everywhere. Now, this is the question of why would you necessarily want to be invisible? I guess, like, because it's always the thing, like, if you say you want to be invisible, like, the first thought would always be, well, what kind of criminal activity do you want to do that you have to be invisible for? It's probably not a wrong thought or an unbased thought, but I'm thinking myself right now, what would you want to be invisible for? Like, probably if you're just standing somewhere and you want to be left alone out in the open somewhere. I don't think like I'd use it for anything like, oh, I could sneak into a movie theater, I could sneak into a concert. I mean, to be honest, movie theaters can sometimes be very empty. No one would notice. No one would like be bothered by you. But in a concert, like that would just get annoying, having to like avoid other people. But be able to fly everywhere is just sounds like what speed? Like if it was teleporting, sure, but I'd rather be invisible, to be honest. I can understand the 50-50 though. Never never have to go work a day in your life or never feel tired a day in your life. Never feel tired. That's very easy for me. Just because like if I never feel tired, like what's the problem with working 8 hours a day or like I don't know. It's just it's much less bad if you're not tired. Would you rather have to live under a bridge or have to live inside a stranger's bathroom? Now, both of those aren't great. Is the stranger aware I'm living in his bathroom? Is that bathroom for just me, or is it still just the stranger's to use, and whenever he needs to go to the bathroom, he'll just come in? How how tall is the bridge? What kind of bridge is it? Is it like one of those like wooden small bridges over a little stream in England or something like that that I'm imagining, where like I barely fit under the bridge? Or is it like the Golden Gate Bridge? I feel like you can't go with outside over inside, though. You have to go with the inside. Okay, that's interesting to me. That's very interesting. I feel like a lot of people who chose that option haven't been living under a bridge in the winter outside. If it's like a bridge that has an indoors area somewhere, fine, but outside, no. Randomly time travel plus minus 20 years every time you pass gas. Teleport to a different place on Earth every time you sneeze. Land, not water. Both of those are horrible. Both of those also... neither of them is really avoidable. I feel like, while both of them are horrible, I feel like randomly time traveling plus minus 20 years is just much worse. Because you just get completely lost in time and space and just everything would get fucked. Teleporting to a different place on Earth is not good. You'll end up, I don't know, somehow one day you'll sneeze and end up in a war zone. And another day you'll end up God knows where. But essentially, this part also immediately says you no longer have a home. There is not enough time for you to make it back home before you have to next sneeze. It's just not going to happen. But this is just god awful, so I'm still choosing that. At least I could live some sort of life with that. Would you rather live through World War One or live through the bubonic plague? Honestly, much rather live through World War One. Wars are horrible, awful things, but well, it kind of depends as well on where you live. Maybe Austria isn't the best place to live through World War One. Potentially, other countries would have been completely fine. But the bubonic plague, nah. I'd live through World War One. If I die, it's at least over quickly, probably. Would you rather kill your dog or kill your best friend? Sorry, dog. I do have a dog. Well, my parents and brother have a dog. Yeah, she's fine, but I'm a cat person. Obviously, I wouldn't want to kill my dog, but compared to my best friend, nah. Have to scream as loud as you can before starting every conversation. I'm a leprechaun. Have to smack every person you have a conversation with and call them an idiot. I'll scream I'm a leprechaun. I don't know, probably like 15% of people would even understand what that means. It'd be annoying, sure, but I'm not having conversations with anyone if I have to smack them first. Would you rather go into the past and meet your ancestors or go into the future and meet your great grandchild children? Now, the interesting part about that is what happens if I don't have any great grandchild children? Does this question just guarantee me having great grandchildren? Because then I'd probably choose this. Go into the past and meet your ancestors. I don't particularly care. I'd much rather see the future than go into the past. Okay, very close. Interesting. My ancestors have lived here for like 300 years. It's not going to be very exciting. Be able to stop time whenever you wanted, or get whatever you want just by thinking it, except life. Ooh, not life. Okay. Be able to stop time whenever you wanted. This is something I've thought about so many different times. Like, what could you do when you stop time? What is affected by it? What happens, like, if you go outside and you want to drive your car, because obviously you'd want to go places, I don't know, just to explore areas. Maybe you want to steal things, I don't know. But, well, technically, well, you could just unstop time, I guess, if you want to buy food or something. I was thinking, like, you'd have to get food, you'd have to steal it, but obviously, no, you can just unstop time. But get whatever you want just by thinking it. Well, I very easily circumvented the question. I want to stop time. Yep, okay. Would you rather marry an exact clone of yourself or marry your sister brother? I have one brother. I wouldn't particularly like to marry him, no. Marry an exact clone of yourself. I don't know. Why? Would it be terrible? Maybe. I think we'd get along. Sure. Yep, that's fine. Live through your biggest fear or have to relive your biggest regret. Have to relive your biggest regret. How does it define have to relive your biggest regret? If it's once, then yeah, I'd much rather relive my biggest regret, honestly. Yeah, live through your biggest fear sounds horrible. I don't want to do that. Would you rather lose the ability to read or lose the ability to speak? Speak very easily. Yep. Interestingly, still 35% chose that. So much of your life is based on reading stuff. Uh, I'll do fine without speaking. Give me a notebook and a pen. Have your skin? I wouldn't have to phone people anymore. Perfect. Have your skin change colors based on your emotions forever, or wake up every morning with a randomly different face for a year? Uh, Honestly, I think just changing skin color based on emotions would just be practical. I would tell other people when I'm pissed off, and I wouldn't have to say anything. It sounds great. I don't know what face I'm waking up with. Would you rather be a king, queen of an empire 2,500 years ago or be the president, prime minister today? 2,500 years ago. Life was awful compared to today. No way. Would you rather be the smartest person in the world or be the wealthiest person in the world? Smartest. Smartest. Because if I'm the smartest person in the world, main thing here doesn't necessarily come from what do I value more, intelligence or money. Main thing comes from if you're the richest person in the world, people will know. And you can never really live easily or quietly. People will be after your money. If you're the smartest person in the world, you might be able to just hide that. It's quite possible that no one knows who the smartest person in the world is. Maybe, like, not even to the point of, like, obviously, like, you can't necessarily tell who is the smartest person in the world, but to the point where, like, no one knows of them. Not necessarily just knows, like, who they are. So I think that would be much preferable. Would you rather only be able to remember 3 things perfectly or have permanent short-term memory loss? If I can remember everything else sort of all right, I'll take that. Permanent short-term memory loss is not fun. Smartest or the strongest? I don't think being the strongest person is very impressive at all. Not to take anything away from like strongman competitions or like that. Like those guys are great, but like the benefits of it aren't particularly good. It's just okay. I'm now the strongest person in the world. I feel like being the smartest person in the world, just benefits wise, is much more helpful. Would you rather have to urinate on trees or have to poop on carpets? Urinate on trees, I guess? What's that question? Would you rather die in front of your friends or let your friends die in front of you? Fully depends on the situation. Honestly, that's a similar situation with the question as the spouse child one was before. I cannot answer that unless I know exactly what the situation is like. So I'm just gonna randomly click on something and we'll just go to the next one. Would you rather be an idiot but receive $1 million each year, or be very smart but earn $125 each year? $125,000 each year is an amazing amount of money. It's like so much more than I'm earning currently. And yep, easily give it to me. The difference between 125k and a million isn't that much. It looks much, but it's not much. Like $125,000 a year, you're rich. $1 million a year, yeah, you're still rich. You're a bit richer. Doesn't make much of a difference. Very easily, this. Be able to taste any food by looking at it, or be able to feel anything by looking at it. I feel like, I mean, this sounds a bit weird, but I feel like I can sort of already do that anyway. I've got, well, not necessarily by looking at it, but I've got a very good sense of smell. So I can sort of already tell if I'm going to like food by smelling it, even food that I haven't had before. So I feel like if I could taste it by looking at it as well, it's just like, whatever. Feel anything by looking at it. I don't want, is there something I can turn on and off? Because I don't want to feel anything. I also don't want to taste anything by looking at it. If I'm looking at, I don't know, the table, I don't want to taste the table. So I'm assuming, I'm going under the assumption that I'm assuming I can turn it on and off. Guess I'll go with be able to feel anything by looking at it. I don't think I'm gonna get much positives out of either. Uh, would you rather constantly hear a high-pitched sound or be unable to hear your voice when you speak? Both are horrible, but I'd much rather be unable to hear your voice when you speak. Constantly hear a high-pitched sound is horrible. Awful. Until the point where you maybe might be capable of just blanking it out, but I feel like this question just assumes that you will never be able to, because at that point you're not constantly hearing it anymore. So easily this. Even though it sucks a bit, but it's much better. I think we'll do like two more after this one. The last three now. And if you really enjoy it, I can do another one. I'm enjoying this always. I really like Would You Rather, or kind of like things like that in general, because I can just I can tell others what I think about things. Would you rather always speak your mind, including very harsh truths, or never speak up for yourself? Always, no, never speak up for yourself. This is just not something that you can really live with. Would you rather post every text message you ever sent on the internet, or have tattoos on your forehead depicting everything you did the day before? I think that would honestly just be kind of funny, but that's not even very negative at all. Like, post every text message you ever send on the internet. Sure. I don't care. Have tattoos on your forehead depicting. No, no, definitely not. Post every text message easily. Very easily. Two more. Would you rather live alone for the rest of your life, live single with yep. Get those kids away from me. I'd rather live alone, thank you very much. Would you rather visit every state in your country or visit every country in the world? Would I rather go to all 9 states in Austria, out of which I've been to 8 of them? So essentially, it's like, would I want to visit Vorarlberg? Or would I want to visit every country in the world? Yeah, I'd visit every country in the world, thanks. I don't even like. I mean, I guess there's definitely countries with more states. Like the US has. Wait, let me not embarrass myself. 50 states, right? 50 or 52? God, I think it's 50. Should be 50. Brazil has like 20 something. But even then, it's like, it's not that many. There's over 200 countries in the world, depending on your definition of a country. But that's just more. And there's also going to be much more diversity. I mean, are there some countries I don't want to visit necessarily? Sure. I don't really want to go to the middle of the desert. I guess there's no country that's just desert. But there's a lot of countries that I don't want to go to. Quite a few in Asia, quite a few in Africa, quite a few in South America, quite a few in North America. Like, I don't want to go to, I don't know, Honduras, for example. I don't want to go to Egypt. I don't want to go to North Korea, I guess. I don't want to go to, what's there a European country I don't want to visit? I don't want to go to. It's a good question. Guess I don't really care much about Belarus. I guess, if I had to choose. Is there a North, well, I already mentioned North America. Is there an Oceanian country I wouldn't want to visit? I mean, I don't really want to go to Australia just because of the wildlife, if I'm being honest. But yeah, otherwise it's probably fine. So yeah, I don't know if it's like you have to go to every single country. You have to go to every like war-torn place that exists. But yeah, I think we've talked enough about this. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I definitely did. And yeah, let me know in the comments if you disagree with anything I've said, if you have just don't disagree, but just have a different opinion about some of my values, for example. Yeah, let me know in the comments. And yeah, let me know if you'd like to see more of this. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys again next time. Bye.